Imagine a world where airports don't exist, where crossing an ocean takes weeks instead of hours, and where the sky above is empty of aircraft forever. Sounds impossible, right? But what if it had happened? What if humans never invented airplanes? No jets, no commercial flights, no cargo air freight, no pilots. In this video, we're taking a wild journey into an alternate reality, a world without flight, and the impact would be far more massive than you think. And while it might sound like a simple, slower world, the truth is this reality would be radically different, economically, culturally, and even geopolitically. Let's dive in. And first up at number 1, global travel would be slower, pricier, and very different. The first and most obvious impact: travel would never be the same. Without airplanes, the fastest way to travel long distances would be via trains, for land-based travel of course, ships for intercontinental journeys, buses and cars for regional movement. Let's take an example. New York to London by air, round about 7 hours. By ocean liner, 7 to 10 days. And that's with modern engines. Global travel would become a major time commitment, and fewer people would do it. No weekend getaways to Europe, no business trips to Asia on short notice, no honeymoon in Bali unless you're taking weeks off. Vacations would be fewer and longer. People would likely travel once or twice in a lifetime instead of annually. And tourism hubs as we know them, like Paris, Dubai or Tokyo, might never have become global hotspots. At 2, trains would rule the world, and they'd be incredible. With no planes, countries would be forced to invest massively in rail infrastructure. Imagine a world dominated by high-speed rail across North America, hyper-efficient long-distance train lines crisscrossing Europe and Asia, luxury sleeper trains connecting continents via tunnels or ferries. In this world, the US might have developed a coast-to-coast bullet train network long before 2025. Instead of airports, cities would have massive multi-level rail hubs functioning as transit supercenters. Even floating trains or magnetic hyperloops might have emerged earlier to meet demand. And regions without rail, like many parts of Africa or remote Pacific islands, would remain more isolated than they are today. Next up at 3, globalization would look very, very different. Today, air travel is the invisible engine of globalization. It connects people, economies, ideas, and cultures. Without airplanes, global business would be far slower. Face-to-face meetings would be rare, and long-distance partnerships harder to build. International trade would rely heavily on cargo ships and rail containers, making shipping times much longer. Perishable goods like fresh seafood, exotic fruits, or vaccines might never travel globally. Tourism-dependent economies like Maldives, Thailand, or Iceland might never develop as they have. It's likely that people would marry and work locally, since relocation would be so difficult. Cultural diffusion, like K-pop in the US or yoga in Europe, would take decades longer, if at all. Even major events like the Olympics or World Cup would struggle to draw international audiences. In this alternate world, the planet might feel much bigger and much more fragmented. At 4, technological innovation would slow down. Or would it speed up? This one's tricky. On one hand, aviation has led to breakthroughs in GPS and satellite development, materials science, that's carbon fiber and composites, navigation and radar systems, telecommunications like air traffic control, global positioning. Without it, some of those innovations might arrive later or not at all. But on the flip side, without aviation to rely on, other technologies might have advanced faster to fill the gap. Think global communication tech like satellite, internet, or real-time holographic calls. Self-driving long-distance cargo trains. Even early virtual reality tourism, allowing people to experience faraway lands without leaving home. The absence of air travel could have forced humanity to overdevelop alternatives, possibly making certain land and sea tech even better than what we have now. Alright, at 5, wars and histories would unfold differently. Let's not forget, airplanes shaped world history, especially warfare. World Wars I and II would have played out very differently without bombers, paratroopers and fighter jets. Pearl Harbor, the Battle of Britain, and even the atomic bomb drops on Hiroshima and Nagasaki required air delivery. Modern surveillance, drones and airstrikes would not exist. Military logistics would be slower, more vulnerable and more focused on land or naval dominance. In this world, global superpowers might shift. Naval empires like Britain or Japan might have remained dominant for longer, while the US may never become a global military force without the ability to project power through the air. At 6, its migration, immigration, and everyday life would be grounded. In our modern world, millions of people migrate across countries and continents, often by plane. Families reunite, students study abroad, workers take overseas jobs, refugees escape war zones. But in a world without flight, migration would be limited by geography, time, and money. Crossing oceans would be near impossible for most. Crossing borders would take days, even weeks. Emergency evacuations? Slower, costlier, sometimes unviable. Entire communities that exist today, like large diasporas in North America, Europe and the Middle East, might not exist at all. Immigration would be mostly regional, meaning cultures would remain more localized and isolated. Travel to see family, especially in the event of a funeral, wedding or health emergency, would often be impossible in time. Even in the richest countries, life would feel more grounded, literally and emotionally. Next up at 7, global crises would be harder to handle. Now think about this. What happens in a world where we can't fly medical supplies, aid or people at rapid speed? A few harsh realities. Pandemics would spread slower, yes, but response efforts would be much slower too. Vaccines, PPE and doctors couldn't travel quickly. During disasters like earthquakes or floods, international aid would arrive in days or weeks, not hours. Patients needing life-saving surgeries abroad, likely grounded by logistics. Airplanes aren't just for business or vacation, they're lifelines. And without them, crisis response becomes localized, and entire regions might suffer due to lack of quick global coordination. Even during peaceful times, organ transplants, medical conferences, global training programs, they'd all be limited to land and sea. Now at 8, education, inspiration and exploration would shrink. Without flight, our access to the world shrinks, and so does our sense of what's possible. International student exchange programs? Nearly non-existent. Study abroad would only be feasible for the extremely rich, if at all. Young people growing up in landlocked areas or islands might never leave their home country, let alone their continent. And it's not just about physical travel, it's about what inspires innovation. Space exploration, global scientific collaboration, and even tourism to the poles or remote rainforests rely heavily on aircraft. Without those opportunities, curiosity might not shrink, but the ability to act on it would. And then at 9, would this world be better for the planet? Here's an interesting twist. Would a flightless world be better for the environment? The answer? Likely yes. And no. Yes, because air travel accounts for 2.5 to 3% of global carbon emissions. Without it, the planet might warm slightly slower. Noise pollution, airport sprawl, and jet fuel would vanish. But no, because we'd burn more fossil fuels on massive cargo ships, trains, and long-haul buses. Infrastructure needs for sea and rail transport might damage ecosystems, coastlines, and forests. Wealthier countries might still pollute heavily through land and sea logistics. So yes, it might slightly ease emissions, but we'd still need to combat climate change through innovation, energy reform, and land-based sustainability. Interestingly, it might also slow down international environmental agreements because nations wouldn't collaborate as often in person. And finally at 10, would we eventually invent another way to fly? Humans have always been driven to move faster, reach higher and explore farther. So even if airplanes never existed, would something else have taken their place? It's very possible. We might have overdeveloped lighter-than-air technology like zeppelins or solar airships, making them safer and faster than ever before. High-tech hyperloop systems or transcontinental bridges and tunnels might have become reality decades ago. There's even a chance we would have jumped straight to space-based launches or orbital sub-transit earlier. But no matter how, humans would find a way to break barriers, even if it took longer. Still, aviation gave us more than speed. It gave us connection, cooperation, and a sense of being citizens of the world. And without it, humanity might have stayed a little more grounded, in both good ways and bad. So what would happen if humans never invented airplanes? We'd live in a slower, smaller, more fragmented world. Globalization would be stunted, travel would be rare, innovation might be rerouted, and humanity's sense of connectedness possibly dimmed. It's one of the most impactful inventions in history, and imagining life without it reveals just how much it shaped everything we take for granted today. What do you think life would be like without flight? Would we be better off, or would we be stuck in the past? Let us know in the comments below. And if this video made you look at airplanes just a little differently, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We've got more wild what-if scenarios coming your way. See you in the next one.